If you're interested in what I look like in real life and want to learn more about me, then follow my Instagram page at Joe the Insomniak. It started when a buddy of mine that I go to college with, Matt, and I decided to skip a day of class and take a weekend trip up Penn, our little country, to get some late fall dirt biking in before it snowed and before the season was officially over. We had gotten some riding done in the area before, but instead of going to our usual romping grounds, we opted to shoot for a lesser known trail that a friend had told us about. So early Tuesday morning, we loaded up our bikes into the truck. We printed out a map of the area that showed all of the login roads and the few official dirt bike trails that are in the area. Traffic was really light, so we arrived at the spot we were planning on parking the truck at, which meant we had plenty of daylight to get out and ride in. Though we both have headlights on our bikes and had agreed that a little bit of darkness wouldn't be allowed to put a damper on the fun. After we unloaded and we locked up the truck, rode down the highway on the shoulder for about half a mile, then turned off onto the login road. This was an awesome trail. It was a 10-ish mile ride down this old login road to get to the trailhead, and we're probably a little over halfway there when, from behind us, we hear a loud engine. This beater of a truck flies past us, nearly hitting Matt and then disappearing around the next turn, just as quickly as he appeared. It's not like Matt and I were going slow. We aren't pro riders, but we're not bad. The last time I checked my tack, we were doing 37, pretty fast for an abandoned loggers road. After this, Matt stopped and killed his engine. Did you see that, dude? He nearly killed me. We decided that, while we're already stopped, we should take a quick break, drink some water, then get back after it. After the break, we did that. We found the trailhead and were loving it. The views were nice. The trail was technical without being unfun. The ground was wet but not soggy. And there were tons of additional trails that had been marked by other riders. Eventually we would come across two separate offshore trails, one going up the hill where we were facing and the other one going down to the right. Both were marked with ends at such and creek, signs that had been made out of plywood and spray painted and propped against trees. After consulting the map, we concluded that they probably did, one trail that went over the hill and the other one more or less going down the side into a small valley. I wanted to go low, but Matt wanted to go high, so we split up and decided to meet at the creek. My ride was nice for the most part, though it became very gravelly and steep at times, and I reached the bottom of the little valley, and as soon as I could see an open clearing at the end of the tunnels I was in. As I rode up, I could hear what I thought to be Matt's engine, but when I pulled out of the trees into the clearing by the creek, I saw that it wasn't a dirt bike. I had been hearing a powered generator. This was powering what looked like an old stove, and sat under the overhang at the windowless shack made out of plywood. Next to the makeshift house was the truck that we had seen earlier. I kill my engine, not wanting whoever's inside to be able to hear me, and move in closer. I didn't get too close, but even from where I stood, probably 50 yards away or more, I could smell something. I could see there was a big soup pot on the stove which was boiling, and I could only assume it was bleach, judging by the containers that were strewed around the place. That's when I saw a guy come running out from behind the shack, shotgun in hand, screaming, "What are you doing?" It's at that moment that I hear Matt's bike roar into life, and immediately I saw him tearing out of the tree line behind the shack. He saw me. As he rode towards me at full tilt, I hear him screaming at the top of his lungs, "Let's get out of here, he's got a shotgun." Luckily, my bike starts on the first kick, and I'm able to turn the bike around and tear out of there. I didn't even think about going so quick through that steep gradient before, but I didn't have a choice. We got back to the truck in a little under an hour, and immediately realised that ours was no longer the only one in the parking lot. The piece of junk pickup actually beat us there. He must have had a shortcut or something. He's now staring at us. Hoping that he wouldn't approach us, since we're right off a decently populated highway, we quickly loaded our stuff and left. But he followed, and it was more than an hour before we were able to lose him. The local police were called, but pretty much told us that they couldn't do anything about it. Needless to say, we didn't go riding around there anytime soon. What I really want to know is, why was he boiling bleach? What was he planning to do with it? I was in a small forest by my home one night at around 1 AM on a winter night. The reason for this was because I was practicing meditation, and I sometimes like to go out into nature during the seasons. I sat under a tree. The place was deserted when I got there, and I just calmly melted into the environment. I managed to get into a pretty deep state, so everything was sort of dreamlike. About halfway in, these two young women, likely teenagers, come in. They were getting drunk and high, and getting tipsy. They sat down about 20 feet away from me chatting, totally unaware of my presence. Now suddenly one of them notices me. They sit up and scream. "Did you see that?" she said to her friend. Then the other one realizes me too, and she screams as well. I said in a very monotone voice, "Don't worry, I'm a human woman." I was in a particularly deep state of mind at the time, so I didn't really think about how it sounded until afterwards. One of them responded, kind of stuttering, asking what I was doing. I said I was meditating, and that they didn't need to worry about me, that they can just proceed with drinking. They nervously laughed about it, then took off. To be honest, I don't blame them. This happened this September, around 11:30 PM. I was walking across my university campus in a parking lot next to the Life Sciences building. I'm happy and calm, on my way to visit my boyfriend. I got to a part of the parking lot that kind of ends and turns to a wooded area. It's nothing more than a thin strip of land that doesn't cut down during construction of the campus. It separates the parking lot from the Life Sciences Centre, which is a big concrete building, an example of brutalist architecture from a few decades ago. In this mini forest, as I always think of it, I notice a girl out of the corner of my eye. At first glance, I thought she's a rock, but I was quickly surprised to see that it's a girl casually sitting amid the trees. Now, naturally I was a little freaked out. It's almost midnight. The campus was usually quiet for a weekend, and the little wooded area had always given me chills. The light from the lamps in the parking lot just don't separate very far or penetrate deep into the woods. There's lots of places that someone can hide, is what I'm trying to say. I just look at her, trying to figure out if she's hurt or something. But not long after, I creep myself out. I couldn't see her very well in the darkness, but she had a vacant and almost sincere expression. I remember that, like she was in a deep thought. She didn't look at me. She had this black hair that went across to her shoulders. All things considered, looking desperately random sitting there late at night, she looked a little reasonably normal. I turned my head and pretended that she wasn't there as I walk out of the parking lot and along a path that led to the outside of the wooded area to another campus. Now this is kind of hard to explain, but the path leads up away from the wooded area to a well-lit alley between the concrete walls of life, which is kind of creepy. Once I got to the top, I will be out of sight. I let curiosity get the better of me and take one last look to the girl. My heart did that clenching thing. My palms were sweaty. Of course, I was expecting her to be sitting right there. No. At first I didn't even think she was there. I look around me. No one's there. It was only when my eyes really focused into the woods that I realized where she was. She's lying face down in the prone position on the grass, in the trees. What the heck? So of course now I'm starting to get scared. As I stare, I can see that she's lying perfectly straight. Her head is pointing down, more or less smashed into the floor below. I stared at her for a little bit, thinking she might turn her head to check if I'm still there or something. But she didn't move a muscle, not a twitch. It almost looked as though she is all tensed up, as if she's trying to avoid being seen, or getting ready to sprint. I had seen enough. I was ready to get the hell out of there, run walking into the alley, and shaking like a leaf the rest of my way to my boyfriend's place. I was trying to figure out what I'd just seen. I mean, you don't see this every day. I tried to rationalize it as a prank or something, but the more I think of it, the less sense it makes. This happened to me back when I was in high school, about 5 years ago. I was in my senior year, classes were winding down, and the teachers were finding less to talk about, and we were far more excited to get out of there. This one teacher I had was super quirky, kind of weird but cool, as he always had some interesting experiences to share. He and my group of friends in the class become acquainted. Among the other students who wouldn't listen to him when he attempted to speak about his past experiences. One day, he brought up this oasis, as he called it, a place in the woods that he would visit when he was young. It was a clearing deep within the trees, complete with dunes and a small beach, not too far from where we were going to school. Well, of course we didn't believe him, so he showed us on Google Maps. Our naive selves thought that after school we should attempt to go there, entering from a backyard closet to the clearing. We should have known that the 40-something years later layout of the place would have changed. Come to the end of the day, I gather up 3 of my closest friends. We all agree upon using Google Maps as our GPS. After convincing one of our mums to drop us off within the light of hanging at a friend's place, we made our way to the edge of the forest. God, I wish we called it quits back then. We started out alright, I guess, making our way closer by climbing through hordes of bushes and weeds. It was probably the most run down, gross, dumped on parts of a forest that I'd ever been in, with broken car parts everywhere. Eventually, as we got closer to the supposed clearing, we hear a dog viciously barking in the distance. My alarms went off. That was a dog in the middle of the damn woods. It was fairly residential, so no hunting, but also no trails or any reason to be out there. My friends were a mix of angry at me for suggesting this, and extremely anxious about how we're going to get through. By this point, we just wanted to make it to the sandy beach parts of the woods, which seemed so much closer judging by our distance on the maps. The closer we got, the louder the barking became. At this point, we weren't saying much to each other as I led. We were literally up the creek with nowhere to go. The barking seemed like it was coming from everywhere. I could see a dirt clearing ahead, so I just told everyone to make a break for it. At least in the open, we could see what was coming at us. This was not the clearing that we were hoping for, and I could not find it on the map after. Now off in the distance, there was a medium-sized makeshift building. It appeared to be made out of plywood painted grey and black. Above the door hung a giant animal skull with horns. I felt a pit in my stomach, as I knew this was not good. I realised that this is the source of the barking, being at its loudest. I was frozen, unsure what to do. I came back to my senses when I hear a deep and angry voice shouting, "Hey, what are you doing?" from somewhere by the building. I'd officially had enough of the situation. I gotten all my friends in this mess too, so I felt responsible. I told everybody just to bite the bullet and run blind through the woods. It could have been my mind playing tricks on me, but I swear it felt like the dog was chasing us, as though somebody let it loose. After kicking through the dense wilderness and trees, we were so scraped up and bloody that by the time we got far enough away that we felt safe, we were crying. I called my mum and told her in the mess that we were in what happened. I gave her the street closest to the woods that we're on, and she gladly picked us up. She saw us on the side of the road, and said it looked as though we'd went through hell and back. After that day, we barely spoke about it again. We didn't even tell the teacher what had happened, in fear of somehow getting into trouble. I just want to know who the hell was in that creepy hut with skulls on it, and what did they want from us? It's a Tuesday night at the office depot where I work. A customer comes in needing to fax some things at 7 PM. He said he remembered me from the last time that he was there to fax. Probably. I don't remember you, but your voice is kind of familiar, I said. And I'll skip to about 10 minutes later, when his confirmation page finally comes in. I'm ringing him up, and without any context, he says to me, "Do you know how to get rid of a dead body?" I replied nervously, "No, well, I do watch a lot of TV, so he interrupts me with, "This is how you get rid of a body. You deep freeze the body, get a wood chipper, you back up into a lake or river and chip the body away. The flesh eats away from the body. You then take the wood chipper to a car wash and wash it out." While saying this, he's not smiling or laughing. He just tells me it very calmly, with a particular tone, as though he's giving me instructions on how to change a light bulb. It may not seem like a big deal, but I'm totally into true crime and reading up on serial killers. But this time, I'm not reading. This man's giving me a completely blank stare, telling me how to effectively get rid of a body with no context whatsoever. I never saw him again.